Hi everyone, we're the Video Boys. I'm Kenneth.
I'm David.
I'm Matt.
And we just saw The Adventures of Jar Jar and the Jar Jarinos. We just saw Thor, The Dark World. Would one of you care to provide the plot?
Alright, so the Dark Elves from that Hellboy movie are going to destroy the universe as we know it, and Thor beats them up.
Yeah, it's basically.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They want to turn everything dark.
And Natalie Portman is a scientist.
The end. The whole thing is about another MacGuffin. It's called the ether, which is like this liquid thing that gives powers. What did you think of this movie?
I actually liked it better than the last Thor movie. I liked that they showed more like Asgard stuff. It was kind of cool. Yeah, I liked it better. I thought it was good. I mean, there was a lot of stuff wrong with it, but we can talk about that later.
Oh, most definitely. Matt, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was alright. It wasn't terribly exciting, but it wasn't awful. It was okay.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Matt, here. It's very all right. I thought the first Thor movie was all right, and I think this one's all right, but it doesn't... That's the thing about Thor, I think, is that it's really hard to connect with things in the universe, and they don't really make too much of an effort to get you to connect with things in this universe. I mean, it's not like Lord of the Rings where you have something, some sort of relationship or some sort of character that's really relatable that you can really get to know.
Well, that's supposed to be Natalie Portman, right?
Well, she's the fish out of water in this case, right? And
Right.
But her character is Queen Amidala again, basically.
Alright, so maybe we should talk about that.
All right, that's
So
a good place to
there's
start.
a scene in this movie where the protagonist and Natalie Portman are talking about how much they love each other, and behind them is like a CGI city by the sea, right, or
Yeah.
a lake or something, and it looks exactly like everyone's favorite scene from the Star Wars prequels.
I don't like sand. It's rough and coarse. But here everything's soft and smooth. That was the part where I just started, oh, this reminds me of the prequels. But then the villain Malekith, and he starts sending his troops to attack Asgard. All these things happening, all this chaos, everything's coming loose, and then it's like a Star Wars prequel to me. I mean, just the way the action was handled, at least in that part.
It had kind of like a Star Wars feel to it, or what?
Yeah. It's because before that point in the movie, we had not seen any laser guns.
Yeah.
And
So I
then,
didn't even know they had guns like in those realms.
but then the ships fly in, and then it seems there, and then they make that noise like wow, which was also something you hear in the Star Wars prequels. And then after that, and here we're going to get into some spoilers. Malekith kills Thor's mother, and then when you see her being carried off, and the way it's filmed and everything, that's Queen Amidala's death again. At least it looked like it until it was
I was thinking, because they do the whole Viking burning boat thing,
right.
And I was thinking,
exactly.
like, that's the Darth Vader shot where he's burning and they show his body. And
right. Yeah. So if you want to say maybe the new Star Trek movies are old Star Wars, and I think this Thor movie is new Star Wars or something. I don't know, but that was something that stood out to me in the movie.
They were a lot more technologically advanced than I realized, I guess.
Well, more so than the previous film, anyway.
I thought there would be more like magic, but it was more like technology. It's kind of...
Yeah, I'd never read it in the comics. I didn't see the previous movie. I had no idea Thor was so sci-fi.
Yeah, it was toned down more in the first movie, where it seemed like, it's more magical sort of thing. But yeah, the whole relationship between Natalie Portman and Thor... Grant talked about this in his review of the first movie. It was like the way they play it out is like their romance is a thing that will echo through the ages thing, and it's so not that. And likewise with this movie, they play it up like that, but there really isn't. Even in the first movie, man. I mean, I know this. You didn't see the first one.
Yeah, I mean, you get the feeling that it all happened in the first movie,
right?
And they're just really banking on that because she's like, "Oh, he never came back," and then he's like, "Sorry for not." And then they briefly mention the plot hole during the Avengers that he never saw her.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. You would think that, this was all explained. Their relationship was developed in the first Thor movie, but it wasn't. I mean, that's the thing. It's like they meet for maybe a couple of days, and she thinks he's hot, and that's basically the basis for their whole thing.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right.
David, what are some things you liked in this movie?
The elves, technological thing was kind of cool.
Oh, like their big ship that lands in London or whatever.
I thought that was kind of cool. The elf battles. Felt kind of I didn't get a Star Wars feel, but you guys know more about Star Wars than I do, but I got kind of like a Lord of the Rings type of feel to it. It kind of had a similar plot to the Avengers. Yeah, where some villain comes and he has this great power to destroy, and instead of Tesseract this time, the ether or whatever. Yeah. The same thing. I kind of like that the Avengers weren't in this. This movie kind of showed me that the Avengers aren't actually really necessary. They just kind of get in the way. Mm.
Yeah. What was it you said about Avengers? And yes, we haven't reviewed it yet, but it was that it takes all these superheroes to fight a villain that Thor can defeat by himself.
Yeah. Well, this is talking about Avengers a little bit, but Thor at the beginning of Avengers, Thor just grabs Loki and it's done, as Iron Man gets in his way.
Yeah.
So the movie would have been done if the Avengers weren't even in there.
Yeah.
So
this movie makes that comparison because at the after credits scene, they say that the Tesseract is a Power Stone. And the big bad thing, the ether from this movie, is a Power Stone.
Yeah.
And so, there you go. There's two plots about Power Stone. One took all the Avengers, and then the other one was just Thor. So it makes you think, these are, equivalent sort of stories.
Yeah, but you were even saying that, the ether is even more dangerous than the Tesseract, so you would think the plots would be reversed. Right. It's like, it takes one hero to stop the Tesseract issue, but it takes all these heroes to stop the ether because the ether can destroy every realm and all this stuff. But
if this was more dangerous than the Tesseract, why didn't any of the other Avengers show up to help? What were they doing? That was so important.
Yeah, it does kind of put that whole concept in perspective too, because now we're in a post-Avengers part of the series, right? Yeah. And then those questions are going to constantly be coming up in every film now, is where are the other Avengers? What are they doing? I mean, I suppose you can make an argument for Iron Man and Captain America, because Captain America's fighting the Winter Soldier and Iron Man's fighting the Mandarin. Those are smaller threats, so Thor's not going to bother with that. And but this film does put that in perspective because it's a global issue. So wait a minute, where are these other heroes?
And they mentioned New York earlier, so they acknowledged that movie.
Yeah,
but then that's all they talked about.
If
you're gonna acknowledge the Avengers, you should at least explain why they're not there.
Yeah, Well, it's like Iron Man 3 turned that into a plot thing about Tony Stark, whereas this film it's just like we want to reference the Avengers, basically. But what are some things you didn't like about this movie?
I don't know if this doesn't make the movie worse for me, really, but I was just noticing there's sort of a plot hole where I was thinking as the bad guy was about to destroy the world, why don't they just do the same exact thing that they did before and teleport him away? Only now the thing's in him, so maybe it wouldn't do any good to teleport him because then he'd just be on another planet and they'd all be aligned. He could do it anyway. But then it made me think, well, why didn't he put the ether in himself when he made it in the first place. That way it'd be impossible to defeat him.
Yeah.
It's a good question, actually.
That's a big question. That's a big plot issue, actually. Yeah.
And what I don't get is, like, they were supposed to hide the ether so, like, no one would ever find it. And why did Natalie Portman find it so easily?
Yeah, the merging of the realms thing. I mean, that whole aspect of the plot, just like Natalie Portman's involvement in the plot. I think looking at it, it didn't need to be Natalie Portman. This just seems like one gigantic coincidence that the girl who encountered Thor before gets sucked into another realm, and then, you know what I mean? It's a little too.
That's quite a coincidence.
Yeah, and it's not as if there's any particular reason given why that point on Earth would go to the secret hiding place. It's like, oh, the realms are connected. So out of all possible places in all the world, the point where Natalie Portman is and the point where the big secret evil weapon is, like, they just met.
Yes, exactly. There was a line there and it was the "I don't like sand" scene, where Thor was saying, "Oh, it's fate that we're here together again." Fine, I mean, this movie was self-aware enough in many cases where it's like, okay, they're making fun of the concept at the same time as they're conveying it. Like, they have the whole thing with Eric Selvig, where he's running naked in Stonehenge for some reason.
Yeah, they never explained why he was running around naked.
Well, he said at one point, "I had a god in my head," which makes me think there's some other story tie-in.
Well, I think that was a reference to the Avengers, because he gets brainwashed by Loki in that movie.
Oh, that's right. Did that happen at the end?
So that's like after effects of him being brainwashed by Loki?
I guess, but then why didn't Hawkeye go crazy? But
maybe Hawkeye did go crazy.
Yeah, we have no way of knowing. That's true.
He's just running around naked in a way that doesn't have anything to do with saving the world, so nobody cares.
Yeah. The character Eric Selvig is more important than Hawkeye.
What's Hawkeye gonna do in this movie?
That's true.
And why didn't Eric Selvig, tell the Avengers or tell S.H.I.E.L.D. what was going on? Doesn't he, like, work for them?
Yeah, he is in contact with them. It shows in the Avengers him working directly with Nick Fury. We are kind of dwelling on this whole thing as a big universe thing.
But they keep insisting on it.
It's true.
Like, look at all these things from all these other movies that you also saw.
What do you guys think of the random Captain America cameo when Loki transformed?
I thought it was weird that Loki would care about Captain America or even, like,
remember
give him a second thought. Like,
yeah.
he's just another, to Loki, he's just another jackass.
He could have turned into Tony Stark. He at least talked to him, But
yeah,
I don't know. It's a silly thing, but once again, you kind of have to take that with the plot that's really this silly. They had a lot of humor in this one, like with the previous film. They had that character Darcy.
I thought she was annoying, man.
It kind of got to a point where she started to be a little grating in this movie. I think she's popular now because of that show, Two Broke Girls.
Yeah, she plays like that same kind of person too.
But she has a little subplot with her little intern there. And he saves her life, and she immediately falls in love with him, because that hasn't been done in any other movie before, ever.
Yeah, I totally saw that coming.
Yeah,
I thought that was weird. There wasn't any previous interaction between them other than he being the intern and nobody, like, paying attention. It wasn't like, oh, he was secretly longing after her or something. It's just like, these are two characters. Now they're in love.
Yeah, see, that's kind of the thing, though. I mean, about this movie in general, this is a criticism of mine, is that, like with the previous Thor movie, we don't really get into any of the characters' heads, aside from one, which I'll talk about. But it's, if you don't set things up properly and you don't really give proper resolution to things, it makes you less invested in what's happening. I mean, this is just like a general movie thing, but I kind of felt that a little bit, even though this movie is mostly tongue in cheek. I mean, or a lot of it's tongue in cheek. I still felt like, I really wish I knew these characters a little more. Then I would be more invested in what was going on. And the thing is, it does spend a lot of time on setup, but it doesn't really. I mean, these are all wacky characters, but they aren't. We don't really get to know anything beyond them. So the movie seems like it's trying to do two different things, where it's trying to be maybe semi-satirical in the fantasy genre, but at the same time, it wants you to take this plot about elves and realms and ethers seriously. Right? Matt, some more things you liked and disliked about the movie.
There was one scene where, in the ancient time, when the bad guy tried to destroy everything, and one of the good guys is in the foreground, and another good guy is in the background, and the guy in the background says, "Shall we destroy the ether?" or whatever. And I was laughing in the theater because I was like, "This is the exact shots from Lord of the Rings where it's like, throw it in, cast it into the fire." I was like, okay.
Thor's plan supposedly was to destroy the ether when it came out of her body.
Yeah.
But why did Thor think that he could destroy the ether when, they said the ether was so powerful that it can't be destroyed?
Yeah, they even talked about it at the very beginning when they had that opening intro. It's like, we can't destroy it. The only thing we can do is hide it.
Yeah.
And Thor mentions that his mom told him this story when they were kids. So he would know he can't use his powers to destroy this thing. So, what's the deal with that?
I mean, he says it as if it's a fact, but it's purely on his authority. And then it ends up not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what he was thinking. The plan, it was dumb.
It's a bizarre plan, too, because presumably if they defend the city, the worst case scenario is the bad guy gets to her and pulls a thing out of her, right? So just stay with Natalie Portman.
Right.
And, this plan can happen if it's, everything else goes wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we'll just take Natalie Portman to the bad guy and we'll try this.
Try this experimental thing that probably won't work. And put the whole universe in danger.
Yeah, and I think Thor kind of got off easy on that one. I'm gonna go forward with this completely ridiculous plan.
He should be in jail.
Should be in the cell Loki was in.
Yeah.
Did you think it was weird that after they show the throne room being destroyed over the course of several scenes, the bad guys break the pillars and he blows up the throne, despite Odin, I guess, and then Thor accidentally breaks more pillars on the way out because he sucks at flying, little comedy relief. But then, Odin is talking to him "Oh, you're ready to be king now," and everything is back the way it was.
It's true.
Oh, yeah. He didn't even get in trouble.
What the hell's going on?
Well, even when the soldier that's actually Loki goes up to Odin, the throne is still there. Everything around them is fine. But the scene right before that was the siege on Asgard. So
how'd they fix all that stuff so fast?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Before I talk about one aspect of the film that I really liked, I want to talk about the whole execution of their plan, because there's a part in the movie where Thor gets his warrior group together. Maybe it's because I just saw Star Trek: The Search for Spock. We just saw it anyway, and they had this little plan where they're rising up against the Federation because they want to do this thing and to save Spock. And then likewise with this movie, they have this plan. But the way they did it in this movie, and as compared to the other film, it's just straightforward. We're discovering things as we, as they happen. Whereas with this one, it was constantly cutting back to them talking about the plan and them executing the plan. And it's a similar thing that happened in The Matrix Reloaded. The Keymaker is talking about the plan, and then it's cutting to them doing the plan. And I was thinking the same thing in that movie as I was thinking in this movie. It's it would have been more exciting if we actually just saw them executing the plan. We don't know what they're doing. By constantly cutting back, it's oh, well, we know how it's going to end up already.
Yeah.
We know that they're going to successfully execute what they're saying. And I don't know, it kind of took the air out of the excitement that we're supposed to be feeling in that scene for me. I don't know. Maybe it's a nitpicky thing. Maybe I just don't like
No,
that
I
editing.
found that part kind of like annoying a little bit.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Also, didn't you think it was kind of Matrix-y, like that glitch thing? When
Oh
they're
yeah.
throwing stuff down. I'm like, it's kind of like the Matrix or something.
Yes, you said that in the theater.
Yeah.
The escape scene shows kind of a disconnect between like CGI and acting.
Mm-hmm.
Loki and Thor are sort of kidding each other, like, I thought you said you knew how to fly this thing, or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, like,
Yeah.
like, well, I don't really know how to fly this, but you watch the CGI, and there's like a million fucking lasers shooting at them, and he's like dodging them perfectly.
Yeah.
Like what? Like this scene in the spaceship has nothing to do with what's going on outside the spaceship. It's like a completely different movie.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. And I got a lot of that actually in this movie.
Well, that's pretty good for a guy that's never flown a UFO spacecraft before.
Yeah, exactly.
Great job.
It's true.
I think he's doing a better job than the elves were.
Yeah. Going with that, we have the whole siege of Asgard, and you have all these lasers going off and things flying and like crazy outside, and then on the inside you have the practical sets, and it's Thor fighting all of the escaped prisoners. And for some reason, Thor fighting the escaped prisoners is so much more exciting than everything else that's going on outside for me. And I don't know. It was things like that that really just kind of took. I mean, this movie has things that seem like they could be really good in the hands of maybe a better writer or something. Because the guy who wrote this, two of the guys who wrote this, also wrote Captain America.
Oh.
I was pretty critical. Grant and I were both very critical of that film because it felt like things were disconnected between the first half and the second half. In this case, it feels like things are disconnected within scenes, so it's even more of a jumble than it was with that film. With that film, you can very easily say, okay, first half is very well done, the second half is not so well done. This one, every scene you have that, all right, this concept is cool, but let's cut to some other thing that's completely unrelated.
Yeah.
But
and then some of the stuff didn't even go anywhere. Like they're setting stuff up and then it didn't go like Thor's friend that hated Thor's girlfriend or whatever.
Oh yes,
it didn't go anywhere.
Sif, Lady Sif.
Yeah.
She didn't like. She just. They have one shot where she just gives her a look. It's like, oh, she's here.
Yeah, so I thought they were gonna go like, oh, this is gonna be some cool thing.
Yeah,
where they hate each other.
And they were talking, and Odin was talking about it earlier in the movie, when he was talking to Thor. He said, humans don't live very long, so you being in love with Jane Foster, it's not going to go anywhere. You should just fall in love with someone here. And then it cuts to her, cuts to Lady Sif there fighting.
And she and Thor have a scene at the party, celebrating him bringing peace, where she's telling him that he needs to focus on being a king more, which is, I think is a reference to that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere, yeah. And
it's too bad.
Yeah, I kind of wanted it to go somewhere. I mean, that's the issue that I had with Captain America, the issue I have with this movie. It's just that things are set up.
Because the way, maybe they changed the plot during the writing process, because it seems like the way Natalie Portman is integrated into the universe destruction plot destroys any chance of this other love triangle plot getting off the ground, because all of a sudden, like, Thor's telling him, we need to get Natalie Portman off the planet, or whatever. Like, whatever she's central to their plans, and so anything that's about her, everyone is in agreement, right? They're all working to save the universe with her, but there's no conflict there.
Yeah.
They're all happy to do whatever it takes so they don't all die.
Right. So, it takes the steam out of that. I don't know. In general, I don't like love triangles. I just saw The Hunger Games, and I didn't care for the way that was handled, but it wasn't a big part of the movie. But it still carried through the whole movie. It was very low-key. Whereas with this film, it's like, we're setting this up. They're emphasizing, they're hammering it in. We're setting up this concept, this love triangle, but we're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you never know. Thor 3.
well,
Maybe.
that's the problem, though. It's like all. That's the problem I've been having with a lot of these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Is that we're going to save that for the next one. We're going to save that for the next one. We're going to save that for the next one.
It's like an episode of 24 or something. It just keeps going.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I don't want to veer too much off topic, but the movie The Avengers was originally going to have a subplot with Captain America getting acclimated to being in the present day. And it's like, oh, that's cool. That's a nice character development thing, but that concept was dropped because that's something that would logically come out of Captain America's plot, but they don't deal with it at all in the Avengers. It's like, oh, we'll deal with it in Captain America too. Well, give us something, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just drop someone in there and say, oh, everything's fine now. And I don't know. It is a problem I've been having with these films, but it feels like we're really down on the movie. Let's talk about things we liked. For me personally, I liked everything with Loki. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great actor.
Yeah. Well, he's done a great job with these films, and he's managed to be the only villain in any of these movies who actually stands out beyond just being, oh, he's the bad guy who wants power. With Loki, it's a little more complicated than that. I mean, I liked Obadiah Stane and so on, but Loki's the one who really gets some depth. I mean, there was a big plot in the first movie about him being the adopted son, him being the child of the enemies of Asgard and so on, the Ice People or whatever, and that plays into this movie where he's really conflicted about his relationship with Thor, his relationship with Odin, and his relationship with Frigga, the mother. And it seems like it's come to a point because Odin is to blame for a lot of the problems that Loki's had because Odin constantly is saying, one of you two will be king, only one of you, so you have to fight for it. But the whole time he knows it's only going to be Thor who's going to be king. Yeah. He's not going to make a frost giant a king in Asgard. So he's immediately fostering a resentment in Loki. And then in this movie, you actually kind of see that conflict. He doesn't get along with Thor because Thor's the one who's had to deal with him.
Yeah, and Thor doesn't even want to be king.
Yeah, Thor doesn't even want to be king.
You know, it makes him even madder, probably.
But the part that was really great to me, that really showed that Loki wasn't just some two-dimensional, I'm out for vengeance, I just hate everything, was that he gets really, really mad when his mother dies.
Yeah.
And it was pretty great that he tries to cover up the room with his illusion when Thor goes to see him for the first time. It's oh, the room's fine, and then it's revealed that he's in like this ratty clothing, and the room is completely messed up. And it's like, oh, okay, so he's not just some jackass who wanted to take over the Earth one time. And then there's the number of lines between him and Thor. It seems like he betrayed Thor, but that was an illusion to trick Malekith. So he really, at the time anyway, Thor could trust Loki.
Yeah.
So
was Thor in on that plan then? Or?
He was in on that part of the plan. There's the big twist at the end.
It's an illusion within an illusion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad he's not dead.
Yeah.
Kind of like Loki.
I feel like maybe they missed an opportunity by having him responsible for so many deaths in Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what he did in the first Thor movie, but it seems like just going by this movie, he's sort of a pretty sympathetic villain. Like, he has clear motivations. He does kind of fit that role of the trickster god or whatever, so he's very sort of charming.
Yeah.
But I guess you have looming over this movie is like, we'll never forgive you what you did in New York. And you just think of like all those buildings exploding in the Avengers, like, oh, that's all Loki's fault.
Right.
It's kind of like, do I really care how he feels about his mom? He's like a
yeah, exactly.
Just homicide on just a massive scale.
I don't think the Asgard people really care about human lives, though. Like, what do they?
Well, Thor does, but we care. The audience cares. So that's a very good point, Matt. The events that happen in the Avengers once again, deflates a lot of the potential this film had.
I like how he kind of tries to redeem himself at the end. Like maybe he's not so bad. He's just kind of misunderstood.
But then they even undo that within the movie because it's implied that he. All right, spoilers again, but.
Go ahead.
Well, he kills his. It's implied he kills his father, or he kills Odin.
Oh, I didn't know he killed Odin.
Well, they never say if he killed him, but it's implied that he did, and then he just replaces him as Odin, and just uses his power of illusion to be king. And I don't know how we're supposed to feel at that point.
I didn't mind that he was king. Like, that's what he wanted all along.
Yeah.
He'll probably do a good job. And why not?
It seems like maybe he goes through a character arc in this movie where he realizes that, hey, I was a jackass for killing those people, and I'm going to be a really good king for Asgard because that's what I've always wanted. But then, he's a greedy asshole. He probably killed Odin. But then again, maybe Odin deserved it. But I thought that was a really weird note to end the movie on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. He's a cool villain. It's kind of like when Baron Samedi is at the end of Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
It's just like, of course Loki isn't dead.
Of course,
he's been fooling everyone the whole time.
Yeah.
I liked the scene where Thor's mom dies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They set it up by her telling Natalie Portman, do exactly what I tell you. That's all they give you, and then it pays off really nicely.
Yeah.
And then also it ties into Loki's subplot because she uses illusions to trick the bad guys in the same way that Loki is constantly using illusions to trick Thor and stuff. So
right.
It gives a little connection between him and his mother that fits in with the whole breaking the chairs and all of that. So.
Yeah.
How does she have the power to do that? I thought Loki was adopted, and
I think he's half frost giant or something, right? Or maybe she just taught him that.
It could be. Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, again, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you could look at it as like Thor. It's like almost between Thor and Loki. It's almost like a classic Western trope, where it's like you have two brothers and they're rivals, and one tends to take after his mother, and one takes more after his father, and then that breeds a rivalry between them. So I like that element of the movie. So. Well, any other things you guys liked in the movie, or just things that really stood out to you?
I like Heimdall.
Yes, Idris Elba. Yeah.
Is he in the first movie?
Yeah, he is in the first movie. I do remember when you saw Grant's review, you were just like, how come Heimdall's black?
Well, I guess I see what they're going for now, because I didn't see that movie, but it seems like it's not supposed to, because again, I have no idea what the Thor comics are like, so I guess it's just alien race of beings, If it happens to match up with Norse mythology, then that's, I don't know, maybe the Norse found out about this and just made an imperfect copy of it, or maybe in the Marvel Universe there is no Norse mythology and there's just Thor.
They do refer to Norse mythology in the first movie. It's like, well,
yeah, that's right.
Well, anyway, it makes more sense to me.
But then we have the end credits scene, where it seems like that was kind of based on the movie we've been watching. It seems like that was kind of the logical end of the movie, where it's like,
right,
because there's this whole thing at the end. Natalie Portman's wondering, oh, will Thor ever come back? And that's not resolved till an after credit scene, basically after the movie's over. But it's resolving a plot thing from the main part of the movie, so it's, I don't know.
I think I would have preferred it if they had basically never had that scene and then written the previous scene, so it's Natalie Portman trusts that Thor is going to come back or something.
Yeah,
like,
something.
It should be obvious from their character interaction that something has changed and he is going to come back.
Right, exactly.
I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, I waited through the whole credits just for that. Like,
yeah.
30-second scene.
Well, we also had that Benicio del Toro collector.
That was cool.
And the ice monster chasing the birds.
Yeah, and the ice monster chasing the birds. Yeah. Yes, that's what we've been waiting for, these credits. But.
Did you ever notice, like, after the whole battle or whatever, next scene is just them, like, eating dinner or something.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of like Avengers or something. We're just eating
Yeah,
shawarmas.
that is kind of similar to that. All right, David, out of 10, what would you give this movie?
Maybe like a 7.
Okay.
It was like like you're saying, like a whatever movie. Like I'm glad I saw it. It was good. And wasn't like spectacular or anything, but it was cool. I liked it.
All right.
I mean, I would give the previous movie like a 6. So
Okay.
yeah.
Matt, how about you? Out of 10, what would you give this movie?
I don't know. Is a 5? See, people always mess with the 10 scales. Like, I know yours, I think, weights things too highly. Because it's like, I think 5, is 5 average, or is 5 like, 50% F?
Oh, well, on my scale, a 5 is something that's bad but watchable. If you want to go by my scale, you can do your own thing.
We should put like a little link to your.
I don't want to say it's bad. I feel like it accomplishes what it sets out to do.
Okay.
I just don't think it's remarkable.
No.
All right.
No, I don't think any of us were expecting it to be remarkable.
Yeah, it was what I expected. So
it was better than I expected. Yeah.
Well, I'll give this movie a 6 out of 10, which seems to be what I'm giving a lot of these Avengers movies. Like outside of the ones with Iron Man, I've been giving mostly 6s to these films. So
well, maybe they should make better movies, get better scores.
It seems like when the Avengers came out, it was a huge hit. It seemed like it retroactively made all the previous films good in the eyes of a lot of the audience for some reason, even though they don't get any better because the Avengers was really good. I suppose hardcore fans of the Thor comic and people who were big fans of the first movie, I suppose they will like this one. It's certainly more memorable than the first one for me, because the first one, it seems like it's like almost like a Masters of the Universe thing, where it's like, ooh, this guy came out of nowhere, came out of this universe, and we're gonna have a lot of fish out of water jokes. That's pretty much the first movie. This movie reverses that, but there's less of the comedic aspect with Natalie Portman going to Asgard. So it's more memorable because there are a lot more interesting action set pieces. A little more character development between Loki and Thor, and I suppose a little bit more for the supporting characters to do, even though I still think it's not enough for many of them. But that aside, I think it's all right. It's not amazing or anything. That's our thoughts on Thor: The Dark World. So please comment below if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, and thank you for watching.